friends, and welcome to the channel. My name is Ryan Abear, and it brings me great pleasure to share my insights with you today. And I'm talking about, in this meditation, the end of mechanical living. And I know a lot about mechanical living because yours truly was a mechanical, artificial dummy. And when I say dummy, I hope I don't insult your sensibilities, but I was a dummy in the sense of a mannequin, where I did not understand the richness of being alert and focused all the time. And so my day-to-day activities were very mechanical, and it's this kind of ho-hum going around in a daze. Everything seems so dull. It's a diluted state of being. It is a lethargic, foggy, unfocused, vanilla existence, which is how I lived for a long, long time. But I want to show you that there are times where you are fully alive, which I believe to be our true nature. Full of zing, full of zest, full of curiosity, full of naivete, full of frivolousness, and full of carefreeness. And this is what the awakened state is like. It is stringing together this intense omnipresence, this intense focus that is not tense, okay? It is alert, relaxed, calm, and blissful. But you learn how to get into it as opposed to the way most people live, which is out of it. Most people are out of it, like robotic. So, you have experienced the awakened state. I know you have. Everybody has. It's kind of like when you're at a dance party. Now, some people are they're real good about jumping in on the dance floor and woo-hoo, taking off their shirts and going to town. You know, just like stripping down to the bare minimum. People they just get into it. They just know how to move to the music. Let your body move to the music. You know, they just get right going into it. So it's what's called living with abandon. Oh, to hell with it. I'm just going to move like a fool. And then you have those people that kind of stand around the dance floors, like they're just kind of bopping around. And maybe that looks like a lot of fun. It looks like a lot of fun to get in there and not worry about what people think and just dance like nobody's watching. So they jump in eventually. And then you have people like moi, who stand on the way outer ring, never jumping in. I'm not going to get into that mosh pit. Those are the people on what I call the far reaches of the outer fringe. I was so out of it. That's where I would stand very rigidly and say, I'm not doing that. I'm not going to throw my hands in the air and go, woo! Can't do that. But I started inching up towards the dance floor. Then I got into the second tier of dancing, which is quasi-mechanical living. And then I'm all in. And then you're awakened. So for those of you who have experienced the feeling of abandonment on a dance floor, it is a blissful, euphoric getting into it, but also getting lost. Getting lost and letting the body move to the music. In whatever form it takes, as long as it feels like it's just this natural, close your eyes, just get on the dance floor and let the music move through you. Now, a lot of us have to get drunk for that. We have to get into that state by chemical means to drop the inhibition to jump into the dance. Now, I am talking about jumping into life without a chemical substance, without anything outside of yourself. Life is like a dance floor, and it's inviting you in. And the music's going, and you're standing around going, I don't know. And I'm asking you, jump in all the time. Let it go. You're safe. And you've done it already. You have, if you haven't experienced dancing, you also have lost yourself in a good quiet book. Like you just, perhaps maybe you've gotten into this book and you're just like lost in the book and you visualize all of the characters and you just, like 2 hours gone by and you were just gone. That's enlightenment. You were reading, but there was no reader. There was just reading and visualizing and being there and just, you were into the book. That's enlightenment. Another place that we experience this natural state of euphoria and bliss and freedom and carefreeness is when we first meet someone that we're in love with. Get all gooey and ushy and mushy and gooey and, oh, I love you so much. And you can do anything. I'm completely open. Yes, just what? Oh, yes, I'll go with you and you can go with me and we can touch each other here and do the blah, 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 blah. We get all mushy. But it's not soon after that channel closes again and we become inhibited. Now you're in my face. Now you're in my space. Now you're an enemy. So those moments shut down. And we become mechanical again. And for those people who are in long-term relationships, this is not a knock on a long-term relationship, but it dulls down. Unless you keep that abandonment with you, and unless you're completely comported and alert and awake, and understanding how to build your life as you go in this impromptu give and take sort of thing, it shuts down again. Another place we've experienced awakening or true enlightenment or the deepening of life is when we walk into an opulent space, say like a cathedral or the Taj Mahal or one of the, you go into this like the Grand Canyon, it's like, right? Completely speechless. You're just, you just like, wow. I'm impersonating. What I'm doing in that moment is I am personifying the feeling of enlightenment. Watch, I'll do it again. Okay, I'm dramatizing what enlightenment looks like, but it is really just an abstraction. It has no look. It's this feeling of mouth open, wide-eyed, experiencing something so deeply and so profound. You're realizing the multisensory has overtaken the mind's creation of the separate self. So in that moment, you're whisked away into heaven. Jesus called it the kingdom of heaven. So first love, you're whisked away into heaven. Walking into a big mansion or a big opulent space, seeing some beautiful artwork, you're whisked into heaven. Jumping on the dance floor and taking off your clothes and dance, you're whisked into heaven. And Jesus reminded us that the kingdom of heaven is now. And I am saying to you that you can live in that fullness all day. All moments of your life, you can live with that carefree abandonment. However, you must recognize when you go back to mechanical living. You must recognize when you go back and forth through this seeming spiritually unconscious and highly awakened, senses awakening, going back and forth. In this back and forth, you recognize where the fullness of life resides. In losing yourself, in the abandonment of the separate self, in those moments where inhibition goes out the window without chemical substance. So you become aware of being aware, and you become aware of becoming mechanical. So you develop this super intelligence, which has nothing to do with knowledge, but pure focus on a micro nature of getting into it, right? So let me show you examples of when you may be aware of being unconscious, or when you've caught yourself being mechanical, or let's say diluted, out of it. And you're just like, wake up, pay attention. When you're reading a book or something you're reading, and you've read 3 paragraphs and you have no comprehension of it, but you read every word. That's mechanical living. And you catch yourself and you're like, damn it, I just read a whole page and I don't know what I just read. So you have to go back and read it again, which is interesting because you read it the first time. But where were you? You were swept up in an alternate reality called thinking. So there became a thinker, and whoever you are aligned with the thinker, and you were whisked away from the doer who was reading. So the doer who was reading became dull and dumb. You were reading. You may have vague recollection of what you kind of read, but you weren't in it. You were out of it. But that was you, right? Same thing with driving. You may be driving along and you went 10 miles and you're like, oh, and you're listening to, I don't know, Stevie Wonder. I just called, and you're jamming out in your car. You become the music listener. And the driver misses her exit. The driver swerves on the road and is a danger because the driver is a dummy. In that moment, when you're listening to Stevie Wonder and you're bebopping along, the driver becomes dull, stupid, dummy, mechanical. So that is a lesser version of what you are essentially doing, driving. You are still driving, and you're not driving. If you get my drift, you're listening to Stevie Wonder. So you get real good at this smearing of singularity is what I'm trying to get you to. So singularity, the singular function of this moment is for me to speak. So I am singularly here speaking to you. When you're driving, the singular function of driving is to drive. But many of us use it as an opportunity to listen to music or an audiobook or to talk on the phone, God forbid, or to text, even more, God forbid. So you have been behind the dummy on the road, just kind of talking on the phone, kind of like out of it, and you've had to go around them, and they're completely unaware of driving. That's mechanical living. And a mechanical speaker stumbles over her words. It's not very engaging. Feels dull. Puts you into a mechanical mindset. So if I were to speak like this and droll on, the mechanical version of you would pop out immediately and start talking over me. Of course, we have the same phenomenon when we're listening. So we're listening, and then we start thinking of what we're going to say to the listener. So now we become the speaker. Sorry, I think I said that wrong. We're the listener, and the speaker is apparently somewhere else. Not really. But they're speaking, and I'm supposed to be the listener. But then if I start talking with my mind, I become the speaker. So you have 2 speakers happening at the same time, that's mechanical living. So you get wise to this. You start thinking, okay, this is dull. I don't want to be a machine. I want to be fully present, fully alive. So, when people say, don't just sit there, do something. Well, I am saying, yes, just sit there. Start with little things and see how tasty being is. So I'm not telling you don't just sit there. Just means precise, absolute, and completely engaged. Just. Only. Absolute. Just sit there. And as you do, you will begin to notice more and more and more, like the feelings on your skin, the sensations in your stomach, your breathing. There's a little clock ticking here. I can hear the dog breathing over here. And you can take it all in if you shut the hell up in your mind and just sit there. That's the first thing. Learn how to just sit there. You may notice feelings, but you will experience what I think is omnipresence. Omnipresence, if you just sit there, there's so much going on in just sitting. You can feel gravity, and then you also can feel that your presence extends beyond your skin. Like it's weird. Like you go into outer space and you feel everything everywhere at once. And this is really intensified when the mind stops talking. I'm pausing so we can just feel that wonderful, multi-sensual nature of just sitting here. And then when you learn that, you want to go back and relive your life again and take a shower for the first time. Really take a shower. Like feel the water and smell the soap and touch your body. And it's like when you're into it. Like take a bath and get into it. Eat and get into it. Read and get into it. And drive and get into it. Now, you may have noticed in this video, you're not into it all the way. You must go back, watch it again. You're going to learn something new because you weren't into it. You may have been scrolling through other videos. YouTube makes it easy for us to be mechanical because you can take the current video you're watching, move it to the side, and scroll through other ones. Then you become the scroller, not the listener, not the watcher. So you got like this accordion multiplicity going on. You once were just the listener and maybe even the watcher. I find myself getting lost when I'm watching videos of attractive people. I get lost in their beauty. I don't listen to what they say. I'm just like, I just love the way they look, right? You get my ugly mug. But I'm trying to make the words hook you in to this space of getting into it. I don't want to distract you with my form, my radiant face. But that's all part of it. Watching a video is watching and listening, and it's a lot to it. But a lot of us are just sort of in the background watching it. So you will notice that you are in and out. You're out of it, you're into it. You're out of it, you're into it. And you back up, you go back and forth in this enough. And you're like, you know what? I really want to be into it all the time. And so you want to experience these simple things in this feeling of being into it. Now, one of the things I am really curious about is what a sexual encounter would be like when both people are into it. I've never done that. Okay, here we go. Confession time. My sex life in a past version of myself was mechanical. I remember I was that person on the edge of the dance floor. I was observing life as a stick in the mud. I wasn't into it. So all my love making and all my relationships and all my sexual encounters were mechanical. And I'm often like, okay, so now that I'm into it, I'm living with this sense of abandonment and euphoria. What would happen if two people came together and had a sexual experience where they were both into it so much that they were gone? And there was no longer two of us, but there was a singularity happening in simultaneous. It would be like, whoo. But to get to know somebody like that, you have to trust them. You have to sense that there's a transparency to them. There's a willingness. There's an openness to get on the dance floor and to design the dance of two as one. So I am talking about singularity. Two people can be in this simultaneous singularity if they're both into it. and the individual is gone. It's funny because when you're out of it, you're too concerned with the self. When you're out of it, you're trying to multitask. You're trying to do all these things, and life gets real saccharine at that level. If you want a tasty life, if you want a rich life, you practice just sitting, then just speaking, just listening, just driving, just petting the dog. If you have an animal, go close your eyes and just pet them. And you'll notice you can listen to them breathing. You can feel the texture of the fur. You can feel the healing power. It's like, whoa. All of a sudden, life, it's like turning up the vivid meter. Like, and it gets really, really vivid in smaller nano microseconds. And that sense of being in heaven stays with you. And people think, are you high? Yes, there's something called being high on life. I'm into it now. And I want to be with people who are into it, not into me. There is no individual. When two people disappear, there's this wonderful sense of singularity. Everybody's abandoned the image of self. And there is a oneness that it's hard to talk about, but it's very appealing. But you got to jump in. Jump on the dance floor and stop living mechanically and start living richly. Okay, friends, I appreciate your time. I hope that this gave you pause to think, to start tasting life with a richness, to start doing things for the first time, and to unlock the power of heaven in every moment. It's much deeper, it's much fuller, it's much tastier. It's actually much more fun to jump in and to get into it and lose and abandon the image of self. My name is Ryan Abair. If you enjoyed these insights, please check out my blog. It's called My Morning Motivator. We'll see you next time.